When did you play Doom for the last time? Back when the game was still new and you played both Doom 1 and 2? Did you come back to it recently with the re-release of both games in the CAX engine? Did you at least try out the new WAD release with it called Legacy of Rust? I open with these questions because you might take a look at LOR and think, oh wow, they have made something entirely new for Doom after all this time? Yes. Yes, they have. However, LOR is merely the tip of the iceberg of what has been released for Doom in the last 30 years. Hell, it's the tip of the iceberg for what was released back when it came out in 2024. The community has been incredibly active during all this time, and through its ebbs and flows, they have been making essentially infinite amounts of content. If you really wanted to, you could suffice all your gaming needs through Doom alone, as there is a litany of different contents to be explored within the realms of the Doom engine, be it with the crazy things made in UZ Doom. Oh man, it's so good that we don't need to deal with those ugly preset graphics anymore, or just through maps made for the classic Doom experience. People have learned to make a great variety of maps that range from the usual shoot everything experience to outright pure puzzle maps. Where I want to get with all this is that if you have been disconnected from what has been happening within the Doom community, you might be a little bit shocked by what has been made with the game. So, here in Game Over Hell, Lucas has covered both the classic WADs previously, before I had even joined in even. If I'm not mistaken, he even played them before I did myself. But when I got around to playing them, I was already familiarized with the game quite a bit from watching a ton of Decino here on YouTube and staying a bit tuned with the Doom scene in some way or another. So I played through both classic WADs, all of Final Doom, and started talking to some people that recommended some community WADs and dabbled into some of the ones featuring Decino's channel and covered by Mount Pain 27, one of those being Eviternity. Eviternity is a custom 32-map MegaWad headed by Dragonfly and released in 2018. Much like many other WADs that have come before it, it was made with focus on classic Doom gameplay, but with some changes to the demon rosters to spice it up a little bit and other quality of life changes, such as making the pistol fire much faster and more accurately than in Vanilla Doom and reducing lost soul health to 40 so they can all die in one shotgun blast. All of these changes were mainly done to speed gameplay up a bit, and I thank Dragonfly for that. Can't stand tanky lost souls. Eviternity is pretty fun. Dragonfly by this point was already quite experienced with making Doom maps, so much so that he made more than half of these MegaWad's maps all by himself. So he already had an established style of punchy, very to the point maps that usually run with a theme until its end, and some of the maps featured here that are not altered by him, however, do diverge from the style quite a bit, with the most infamous example being map 19, Dehydration. A 2-hour behemoth is squeezed between two relatively brisk maps right in the middle of a map pool is a bit weird. Well hey, at least the map is pretty interesting. What highlights Eviternity apart from other MegaWads is that it sports this very unique look due to the usage of the OTEX texture pack, made by Ukuro, and it has 6 distinct chapters with 5 maps each, where they all share the same theming but don't necessarily look alike. This helps in making the maps of Eviternity feel connected. Well, apart from the beginning of each of them being the start for the next one, which is also pretty cool. But also establishes a clear sense of progression through the many different stages of Eviternity, starting from the many muddy caverns in the archaic chapters and ending in the hallowed heavens of Eternity. He used the MBF comp level, which was pretty much just an upgrade of the most widely used comp level for modern classic Doom mapping. It had some new bells and whistles and an interesting new behavior for infighting, but it didn't really do that many things differently. Anyway, it is quite the MegaWad, especially considering just how quickly it was all put together, and it was quite the success both inside and outside the community. Soha, that is cool and all, but what the hell are you talking about? What is this nonsense about EDF and comp levels? I know, it might be a lot to take in if all you played were the classic WADs and didn't really care about using a source port like DSPA or something like that. So, here's a crash course. Classic Doom has had many upgrades to its engine over the years. What we see here is the classic vanilla WADs are merely a fraction of the things that are possible to be done today. Since the speedrunning community for Doom still is very active, it is necessary to maintain demo compatibility between engine versions in order for the demos to be played back, and also for certain map features to work as expected, since changes to the engine also come with changes to how certain things behave in a map. This is where comp levels come in. I can use the latest DSDA version with all the bells and whistles of a new engine and still be able to run a demo from 1997 as long as I use the proper comp level. So if you're playing the Ultimate Doom, you use comp level 3. If you're playing Doom 2, you use comp level 2. If you play Final Doom, you use comp level 4. And then every community WAD will use a comp level of the choice, with something like Sunlust using comp level 9 and Eviternity using comp level 11. Okay, crash course over. So, Eviternity was quite popular and praised all over for its outstanding presentation, great map design, and accessibility. And then, 5 years later, Eviternity 2 came out. Now, forgive me if I glaze over many details about the development for Eviternity 2. I have made a video that goes into more details about everything that leads up to and revolves around Eviternity 2 in my own channel, so I direct you to watch that after this one if you want to know more about its development history and how it came to be. It's in Portuguese, but I have made subtitles for it, so please do check it out. What's important is that Eviternity 2 was a much more thought out project than its predecessor. Dragonfly teamed up with many other creators and mappers from the Doom community, many of whom were part of the first project, and returned with a 36-map MegaWad, which sported many of the same characteristics of the first Eviternity, but this time bigger, better, more outstanding, more focused and concise, and, of course, taking advantage of the new capabilities of the new features added to the Doom engine in MBF 21. This time around, Eviternity 2 manages to keep all its main maps within a very confined scope. Big punchy maps, don't make them too long, but go wild on whatever designs you want to assign them. Here you find many different challenges throughout the whole WAD, with a well-adjusted difficulty curve that don't overstay their welcome and make good use of the new features both added from the modifications to the engine, such as the new additions to the WAD itself. The secret maps are something else, however, and I'll get to that in a moment. The first addition is the Perforator. This replaces the chainsaw and can only be obtained in the secret maps. This is one of the most fun weapons added to a WAD that adheres to the classic Doom formula. It's basically a railgun that does exactly what its name implies, perforates through hordes of weaker enemies, but also manages to destroy some of the tankier demons. Barons of Hell near this are gone to dust in seconds. It also shares its ammo pool with a chain gun, giving another use for bullets that tend to fall on the wayside in more difficult maps due to the chain gun just being a relatively weak weapon overall. Think it as a BFG, but for bullets. Then there are the new demons. The additions from the first Eviternity are back, with the Nightmare Demons, Astral Cacodemons, and Annihilators, the latter being modified to remove that ridiculous hit scan attack after the rockets that would do so much damage, even from afar. On top of that, we have new entries added to Eviternity 2. The Astral lineup has tripled, with the addition of Arachnotrons and Mancubi to the roster, with a special mention to Astral Mancubi taking inspiration directly from the Iron Liches from Heretic with their variation and attack patterns. To the Nightmare roster, we have the Nightmare Cacos, which do live up to their name, let me tell you. Field imps were also added, which are these little bastards that teleport around and shoot high damage fire at you when close, or some spread pellets when far away, quickly closing the distance and scorching you alive. And while the Barons of Hell have made a return, being absent in the first Eviternity to give place to Annihilators, they are back and accompanied by their cousins, the Dukes of Hell. It doesn't end there, however. While the former captains from the first game are absent in this one when playing by yourself, being replaced by the former corporals, they are present in the Annihilate Me difficulty that adds multiplayer monsters to the mix, bringing them back to the maps while adding Expectral Astral Cacodemons and the Grand Dukes of Hell. While there are many additions to the roster, I never really felt like they were unwelcomed additions, for they were incredibly well designed and many of their quirks can be used to your advantage in infighting, and they aren't overused to the point of turning your Doom gameplay into Toho. Presentation, as per usual, is better than ever. With the use of Voltex 2.0, all the mappers in the project were allowed to go wild in making the most beautiful kinds of maps they could imagine, using whatever themes possible and applying creative ideas into the mix to spice up gameplay. All maps in the set are beautiful, though there are quite the standouts such as Map 24, Map 34, and Map 14. Speaking of presentation, it is not just about how they look, but also how they feel. Some of these maps have an incredible feel, one of the things that weren't really highlighted that much in the vanilla WADs. And forgive me for comparing the vanilla WADs to this, I know it's quite the stark contrast and not really fair, was the sense of scale within maps. Actually, those Sandy City maps did manage to do that quite well. Of course, through the years and through the upgrades made to the engine, mappers are able to do much more, and you can see such immense scale displayed here in map 32, 33, 36, and 11. It never quite ceases to amaze me how all of this is properly handled in the Doom engine. And sometimes it isn't. The game does suffer a little bit with performance in map 32, but hey, that is just a small price to pay for this level of detail and ingenuity. In regards to gameplay, there is not much I can add on top of what has already been said about Doom gameplay in general. It's snappy, precise, and feels incredible. Though this is never quite realized in the maze-like and confined maps in the vanilla WADs, here, however, any replacements, map design, and combat design are tempered from years of experience by the creators and the community, and there is never a dull moment to be found here if what you're looking for is to pop some demon flesh. So you might be thinking that you are not quite up to par with what the community might expect from your abilities after all these years. Put your qualms to rest, as Eviternity 2 was also made with all the different difficulty levels in mind, and you can choose whichever you feel the most comfortable with to play through the game without deterring from the overall experience from the WAD. And of course, there are the changes made to MBF 21, which add certain mechanics that simply weren't possible before, such as insta-killing floors. They are essential for the workings of certain maps and are even the central highlight for some of them. There are many changes made to the engine due to MBF 21, so I won't be getting into further details about them, but know that the Perforator wouldn't be possible to be done had it not been for some of these changes. Eviternity 2 also sports its own, mainly bespoke soundtrack, composed by many talented artists from the Doom community, with a special highlight to Tristan Clark and James Paddock, who have also worked in the first Eviternity. They, and all other musicians, bring to the table a plethora of different genres and styles to nail the proper feeling for each map in a selection, ranging from the usual frenetic metal beats to melodic pieces fitting of an abandoned medieval castle to outright otherworldly ambient. Another big highlight for Eviternity 2 are its secret maps. The secret maps flee from the theme established in each chapter to, pretty much do their own thing. Sometimes they revolve around a certain gimmick, sometimes they are just an incredibly well crafted and beautiful piece, and other times they are made to be exceedingly challenging. Not only do they run away from the main theme of a chapter, they also don't have such restrictions imposed on the rest of the maps on how long they should be or how mappers should approach map design with them. This makes them easy to set apart from the rest of the WoD in terms of memorability, and they don't disappoint in that regard. So once again, I ask you, when was the last time you have played Doom? If you have felt like replaying Doom for some reason but aren't really into playing the vanilla WoDs again and again, I highly recommend making Eviternity 2 the first WoD you play from the community. Sure, I could tell you that you should play the first one before because it's pretty cool to see the ending from the first be the start for the second, but that doesn't really matter that much. What matters is that Eviternity 2 succeeds in delivering an incredible experience for classic Doom that fits into modern game design, and is a much more coherent experience than its predecessor, while being better than before and still being quite accessible for people that have never played anything done by the community before. Let Eviternity 2 be your gate to other community works that will surely amaze just as much. Have you played Eviternity 2 before? What did you think about it? Leave your comments below, remember to like and subscribe to the channel for our weekly uploads, and as always, thanks for watching and take care.